Alright, this video is going to be a heavy one. It's going to be a video diary one. I don't know, it's harder to do these in a car, but I'm going to try. And just, again, I'm doing this for me mainly. And I just want to talk about a concept that's I'm kind of starting to understand as I go into more understanding of narcissistic family systems and my part in them. As I've gone no contact with everyone, I have absolutely nothing. I say that almost as like I don't care about your sympathy. I don't care about being a victim. I see things for what they are now. I had to do the work and sit in my own crap as I'm, I'm here just living with my own thoughts without any distractions. And I look at how I was a scapegoat of my family, and essentially how I am now the scapegoat in my community, quote unquote. And I kind of want to talk about it. It goes in and out, and with time I'm learning to be more stoic and embrace my solidarity, my solitude, which was involuntary at first, but now that I'm forced in it, I see it. I'm learning a lot about codependency and stuff like that, and how you can turn being the scapegoat into being the goat, being exactly who you've always been destined to be, who you've always had the potential to be, to the extent that the people in your life are narcissistic and are holding you back and are, manipulative. And I'm waking up to my rose-colored glasses of how I would look at the world with these rose-colored glasses, that I realized I was always, since birth basically, my entire life, my family has been manipulative. My parents have been immature. I've been a billion chances. It's hard to give up on family, and I would always it was just always manipulative. Everything, every single conversation, we're always wondering, every single party, what are they trying to get out of me? How do I keep control? How do I keep the power? How do I hide? Like, all this, it's unbelievably toxic and unhealthy. And having said that, ways of coping with that include, for me, it was the scapegoat. That's where I position myself, and that's the person who takes all the abuse, all the the burden. And I would turn that into emotional masochism, where I would derive love from that as a way to cope. And in other words, I would overdo it working out, overdo it with trying to make as much money as possible, all these superficial things to earn love, and I wouldn't have a sense of self. I would be constantly trying to appease and earn the love of these people, and that it's impossible. And I see now that I did that. I'm now the scapegoat in my community. I had everything, and to a degree self-sabotage, and to another degree had these rose-colored glasses of, at one point I had a mistress, a girlfriend, and then like a main partner, and then two other girlfriends, and it was absolute bliss. But I never understood. I only had one relationship before that. I never really used people. I didn't, it was just crazy hedonism, and And it definitely set, you know, a lot there. It was all on social media. It was just this big thing, and everyone's doing this stuff, and who can one up each other. Everyone's like turning these like demons during COVID, and including myself. And the world has changed since then. I'm now completely, as me and my ex and I had broken up, I find myself completely alone, and she set the groundwork to, you know, if not absolutely destroy my life, you know, did nothing to help it, that's for sure. And I take full responsibility. I am a martyr, you know. I constantly in my life would self-sabotage I would get everything I wanted. I would push myself to get a good job or do something great, and then you know, always sabotage it, and inevitably is what I'm looking for, sabotage it, and then I go, see, look, I'm not worthy of love. See, no one came to rescue me, nobody wanted to help me, nobody told me to stop hurting myself. And most recently that manifested in our example of that is with COVID, and getting really dark into, you know, sexual acts, and using Adderall, and isolating myself in my house, and there's never a point where anyone was worried about me. And that's, again, I've created this image in my mind of what of expectation I have for people, including my own family, and that's where it stemmed from. And people aren't me. No, you can't expect people to think like you, and that's where the arrogance of where the accountability comes in the scapegoat role. And damn, boundaries are important, and treating yourself with dignity, and if you don't do it, no one's going to, you know. And it's funny, as I've aged, I lost more boundaries. It's almost like I was trying to destroy myself and essentially do the ultimate, you know, sink or swim test, which is that the higher level I destroy myself and go all in with you know, this kind of subconscious idea of my family doesn't love me, while doing that in a destructive manner with these women, drugs and all this stuff. And as all that imploded, it's like, it's partially black and white thinking, because I'm like grouping all this together, but I don't think it's, I think it's exactly, I'm putting it in my mind exactly where it should be, as I choose exactly how I was treated in my family, and I encouraged it. I said, bring it on. I'll show you that I can take it. And almost like I've done my whole life. Like, I try to be the rescuer for people that didn't ask to be rescued. And it gets really, it's really bad in a relationship, because you're codependent. If you're codependent, which you probably are, and you have needs, you have attachment style. It's really insecure, and you're essentially like leeching off of them. It's not real love. You never learned real love. And so I don't think I could have had a more unhealthy relationship. It was as unhealthy as it can get, and the fallout is so I mean, this is how unhealthy the relationship was. The more we mistreat each other, the more it was like a turn on, and the more like boundary crossing we did, the more it was like, you know, we did the power exchange, submissive, dominant, fucking, we do the change polarities. There's a very, very, very thin line between, I'm learning between, you know, whatever your fetishes are and your kinks or whatever, that a lot of it derives from childhood, and how you can use that to, you basically can leverage that into almost a therapeutic release and like a connection, which I think is linked to the trauma bond. And then and thin line is right next to that is the being abusive. And the more you allow abuse, the more it permeates, and the more toxic situation you're dealing with. And it's exactly what happened as COVID was, you know, I mean, for me, it was 3 years in my house, or roughly that. And, you know, lockdown, it was like the ultimate catalyst for just letting these demons express themselves within your own psyche, within society, within social media, within just this. Yeah. And I've been extremely guilty, feeling extreme amounts of shame and guilt, and I literally turned my life into a living hell. And I'm doing my best to actually, you know, stop beating myself up and seeing other people's part in it as well. But I've always been, you know, self-aware and interested in the truth, and that's another thing is I was one of the things I embraced and liked about myself was my ability to, you know, I would like to see how far something can go, to see, okay, people say you shouldn't have whatever relationships. Okay, well, I'm gonna do it anyway, and then we'll see why they're right or wrong. It's like it's like, maybe I'm part Russian, I don't know. That's an old proverb in Russia, right? Don't trust, verify. So I would verify. Why is hedonism empty and abusive at the end of the day, and just not balanced and not good? And I'm like, well, it feels pretty fucking good. It's a lot of fun. And my delusional brain would make me think like, oh, I'm doing creative stuff, like we're doing crazy stuff. And yeah, it's probably not the best thing to do that and always try and verify and always try and, it's not good. And I deserve a lot of the scapegoating, for sure. And I guess back to the point of the video is that scapegoats are usually truth seekers. They're more empathic, and that's why they are manipulatable. That's why they're the scapegoat. And I think if you can stand the heat for long enough, you can turn that into steel. You can forge that heat into a stronger steel, in this case being your new version of yourself that can't be as manipulated, that sees narcissism in society for what it is and sees where the road's going. And I would argue there's a lot of people that are in, you know, there's a lot of single men now that have, depending on where they're at and what their social circles like and their families like, I think they are becoming more solitary and living in solitude and are waiting out the storm and are trying to contain what they still have left of themselves and their souls and their logic and their reason and their love. As this society has just become, it's crazy. If we didn't have YouTube, if I didn't have other people talking about the truth like that would be the next thing, is they turn off, censor stuff like this, because that's how you really gaslight a society. I wouldn't be here if I didn't see other people talking about this, because I felt so alone that I thought I was crazy. I was gaslighted my entire life on my family. I know they know that I know. If that makes sense. My family knows I know. And I think I've been toying with speaking the truth about this kind of stuff in my own social circle, and I struggle with it because you know, acknowledging it gives people power. It depends on how you frame it, of course, but like, I don't want to come off as preachy or come off as calling someone out. I just want to speak the truth in a way that, in the same way I should have done my whole life. And another way of saying that is, speaking out is kind of a boundary. It's like, I feel like I need to stand up for myself after all of what I've been through, and what I've done to myself, and being accountable for that, but also not letting people off the hook, and just letting them run amok. And I don't know. I struggle with it. Because on one hand, it's like, what's the point? But I guess the point is that it's difficult. And now in a society where easy road, it's easy road for everyone. And yeah, I think that it's almost like, again, it's a muscle to train yourself. If for no other reason, to do the difficult thing, like as I'm here outside the gym, just to train your mind, as the meaning has been sucked out of society. And I'm trying to create meaning in any ounce, just wring out any little bit of truth, any little bit of like meaning and motivation, and trying to create my own world, and that is based in reality, and based in love, and based in truth. And yeah, hopefully this video was okay. It was a little bit of my diary again, and with some whatever, just what's on my mind. Thinking more about the scapegoat. And I didn't really realize like the origin story of it, and how it is the perfect way to describe like my place in this world. And I've known nothing different. I've been that person my entire life. And I used to think I was, because I was in that position, that's who my whole life I was always semi-conscious of, like, and it's almost like in like a grandiose way, like, I'm going to help these people that can't help themselves. I'm going to, as far as people that are narcissistic, essentially, these toxic people, these people that have been hurt really bad, and you just, and that's my flaw. That was I guess a arrogance that I conflated with virtue, and it's just arrogant. And yeah, I refuse to live in a world that isn't gonna live in reality, and isn't gonna say the truth, and because it is gonna get 100 times worse if we don't start talking about the truth as a collective group of people. Like, what we believe in, what we see, keeping people grounded with what they see and what they believe, and not what they are told they see, if that makes any sense. Like, people are now just in this hive mind, and it's not healthy. It's literally, you're a slave. like by being that person. And that's another level of this that's made me go crazy, because that's the one thing that kept me going with all this abusive shit in my life and all this stuff. That was the thing that was like, that's the destination, is like being a person without being grandiose or being like a narcissist about it, being a person that is doing something inspiring, creative, different, fun, just and original, and living in a high vibrational frequency away from all that, you know, because there's always been the cogs in the wheel. We've never been more of just a cog. Everyone's a cog. It's just be a cog. I'll be dead before I'm a cog. I can't do that. I've tried. My life becomes destroyed every time I try and capitulate and be the best example is being a warehouse worker. It led to me ruining my life. And that's an insane notion, is working so hard that it ruins your life. Like, you can work too hard. Anyway, I'm a little all over the place, but I'm gonna get in there. Catch you guys in the next one.